to be admired. They are hardworking and anxious for success. Rush season preys on this social status anxiety and competition in the most damaging way. By setting up a hierarchy of self-selecting membership, and the most judgmental behavior is encouraged. The result is often homogeneous groups that reinforce stereotypes and convey the message to the unaffiliated that they are a nobody. The point is, sex-segregated housing is bad for both women and men. Anthropologist Peggy Sande studied dozens of societies and found that some are largely rape-free, while others are rape-prone. Rape-prone societies have in common all-male tribal groups, which emphasize social status, initiation rites, and separation of genders. Does that sound familiar?
So here are my 5 thoughts as you listen to the debate, walk out of here, and begin what hopefully will be a constructive dialogue around this really important issue. The first is, rather than this zero-sum kind of who's going to win, who's going to lose, think about the fraternities or the lack of the fraternities and sororities as part of or not part of what you would like the Dartmouth social scene to look like in 20 years. And then work backwards from that. When you come back for one of your later reunions and engage in revelry with your friends, perhaps visit your children at Dartmouth, what would you like that social scene to look like? You to exercise empathy, something that has not always been in large supply here over the last couple of weeks, years perhaps. There's clearly a reason that some 50% of Dartmouth students join Greek organizations. There's something that they find rewarding, there's something about the membership, and that should not be lost on folks who disagree with the system. In particular, might there be ways of preserving what people like about the system while discarding so many of the things that turn out to be negative for the campus, for individuals, and perhaps even for members of those Greek organizations.
1848, the trustees tried to abolish the system. 1924, 1936, 1949, 1978, the faculty created a meeting moderated by John Kennedy, and there they voted to abolish it. But students there from the Interfraternity Council said that, well, we just started creating this council, we just started creating the systems of accountability. You can't just vote that the system is wrong when we have not yet got the feet to fix it. But we know since 1978 what the Greek system has done. And I'm not.
So first, I think that there are 3 reasons why the system is screwed up along gendered lines. The first is that I just think that single-sex institutions are fundamentally indefensible. I don't think that there are relevant differences between men and women such that it makes sense to have social institutions based on biological differences between people. I also think that the system is inherently exclusionary for people who don't neatly fit into one of different gender categories. So like people who are trans, people who are intersex, people who are genderqueer or don't identify as belonging to a particular gender category. It's unclear what the system has to say to them. Secondly, I think that assumptions about the male-female dichotomy reinforce a culture that is fundamentally heteronormative in a lot of ways, because the system is designed to facilitate female and male romantic interactions. You don't see like fraternity tales a lot of the time. In fact, you see like wedding tales where it's like, I suppose, and I'm not saying that, of course, that like there isn't male-male interaction within like the fraternity system, or that men couldn't get married during wedding tales, but the system's not fundamentally designed to accommodate those sorts of interactions, and that's problematic.
What we really hope to do is explain why on issues from sexual assault to binge drinking to inclusivity, all of the things you've heard here today, it is precisely the Greek system that will allow us to tackle them. It is precisely by the use of having a coherent, socially organized model of running this school socially that we're able to actually handle sexual assault, to handle binge drinking, and actually have a real cultural shift where we can answer these questions and not simply diffuse our way of socially organizing themselves in the hope that it was the system all along causing the problems. I think it is individuals causing the problems, and it is the system that we can use to solve them.
Given that membership in the Greek system is a privilege that comes with certain academic, social, and professional benefits, the system allows for the creation of standards, including member accountability and accountable individual actions. By leaving us with social freedom, with control over our organizations and accountability for our own events, the college creates a reciprocal obligation for Greek organizations to hold themselves accountable or lose the above-mentioned benefits.
The system houses a considerable
of students in a very small town like Hanover, and additionally provides extensive programming at no monetary cost to the college. So if Greek houses are eliminated, how will the college be able to handle both this additional burden of programming and liability, and the additional several hundred students needing housing?
We don't propose that you burn down frat houses or breach buildings, so we could keep the buildings and have people live in those buildings, and that would be fine. I don't it's reasonable, right? I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with funding and stuff, but I mean, at comparable colleges, sometimes so one of my best friends from high school is from Middlebury, for example, and they have a system where they have co-ed houses that everybody can just hang out at, and it's much more just being in an off-campus house, and that's also a system that's largely funded by the students, but it isn't institutionalized gender segregated sort of thing. But probably, I don't know how much something residential colleges would cost, but I don't know that it would be super tons of money. I mean, we just got a ton of money, right?
I'd also like to point out, do we have anyone who works in COSO, who works in the College Center? Here, raise your hand. Right, hi, you've blown. Right, so we have a dedicated staff of people who, in COSO and Collis, in SPEC, who are all about programming, special programming, right? I think Lupe Fiasco was comments. Right, and so what that says is that if we were to abolish the system, we would have the people and the resources here in this room.
Aaron, we all love Collis After Dark, clearly, and go all the time, everyone, right? You all go, we went every weekend last term.
Club one, come on!
And I think I can speak for most members of fraternities when we say we don't want to dominate the social scene. The fraternity system doesn't want you to assume every night to go to a frat, and we'd highly prefer for sororities to take on a much, much more active role in dominating and having female-dominated social spaces. I think it would be absolutely awesome. I think the college, go to Improve Dartmouth and vote on what I posted and support that if you do, so we can actually make sure that sororities are able to throw parties and able to compete socially with the fraternity.
Additionally, I'd like to point out that it's not the Greek system that is denying sororities basements. It's not the Greek system that kicked sororities off of frat row. And it's not the Greek system that makes it so that only nationals at this point can gain access to sorority life at Dartmouth. So just to clarify, because of the high cost of having a physical house, you essentially would need to be a national sorority to come here on campus the way the system is set up now, and that leads to additional restrictions in being able to throw parties. That's not our system, that's something else.
Could you give me a concise definition of what you think the necessary features of the Greek system are, without which it would no longer be what it is?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I think so. First and foremost, I think something that's been very ironically ignored in this debate is that I think something very fundamental to the Dartmouth Greek system, and I think it's worth noting when we look at Professor Barnett's all of his studies that we're talking about a very unique organism here in the Dartmouth Greek system. It's not like Southern colleges where they have literally $10 million mansions. It's a bunch of dudes living in Fidel in a really gross house. It's a unique. No. I'm giving some context. Give me a second. I'm giving some context. The point being that one fundamentally unique aspect that I think has been totally ignored, and surprisingly, is that our Greek system is actually incredibly open. That every one of us in the Greek system says that unlike other schools, we are shocked by the fact that you can knock on the back door of virtually any house and you're let in immediately, offered a beer if you're 21 or over or whatever. To me that this debate has centered around this hallmark of exclusivity in the Dartmouth Greek system, when 70% of the student body who is in it, the vast majority of which would say it's in fact the inclusivity that is most surprising and most astonishing.
So I think we're already moving in the appropriate direction, but there's no way in hell that we can stop here. Frankly, we need increased education for all members. We need increased member accountability. And this accountability needs to extend to such behaviors as harassment and name-calling and homophobic and racist and misogynistic remarks in all houses. I want to see all houses monitoring who comes in and out of their house. I don't want to hear reports about Hanover High kids being able to sneak in. I don't want to hear reports about randos showing up on campus and causing problems. And additionally, we really need to work to ensure that individuals within Greek spaces are drinking appropriately and exhibiting appropriate social behavior regardless of their level of intoxication. These things are really critical to moving forward, not just as a system, but as a campus.
Right. Legally speaking, sexual assault is when there's a party in the bedroom which is not giving full consent. And you cannot give full consent if you are intoxicated. And if we have a social scene, and I'm not saying that there's no such thing as alcohol at Friday Night Rock and but I'm saying that if we have literally like rivers of keystone coming through our social life, that will increase the risks of sexual assault, precisely because it creates the conditions under which a person cannot legally give consent to sexual activity. That's just my thought on that.